welcome to Working Dragon Mystic. I'm Drake. Today I'm going to talk a little about starting trance work and journey work. These are topics that I get a lot of questions about, and they're very powerful for anyone's practice. We did do a video on meditation. I'll make sure that's linked below, because meditation really is kind of where we get our start for trance and journey work. Now, first off, what is trance and journey work? Well, trance work it's really a deep meditation. And when you get deep enough in a meditation, you'll start feeling this transition. A lot of people describe it as a very disconnected feeling, almost as if they're falling. Now, if you've never really achieved this sensation or you've not really been meditating, one way that I often describe it is if you've ever been just sitting around and daydreaming and all of a sudden you feel like you're falling, and that sudden start that you get, that's actually what the transition to trance can feel a lot like. And in these Gnostic trances, we get a lot better connection with the energies and the world around us. That's the reason trance work is so powerful, and shamans tend to use trance work a lot. Now, the transition may not always feel that drastic. In fact, usually once you hit that trance, or sometimes it's called Gnostic trance or shamanic trance, that people will find is that's when you're really into that deep meditative state. If you were to try and open your eyes, it's going to be hard to open your eyes at that point, because you are deep into that trance. You're not just trying to block out the rest of the world. You've slipped into such a deep state where the rest of the world almost ceases to be. So you're going to actually have to struggle to get your eyes open, and usually that's a process, which we'll go into. Now, journey work is where it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's any time you would journey through a trance-like state to another place. There's generally two types of journey work that most people will recognize. There's inward journey work and outward journey work. Now, inward journey work is that. It's exactly where you journey into yourself and the realms within you to do work on yourself. Past life regressions deal with this. Emotional healing, shadow work is very much a part of this, as is soul retrieval, if you've ever heard of any of those practices. And inward journey work, you can accomplish a lot of things and learn a lot about yourself, master your fears, understand why you fear things, and gain a greater understanding to who you are, why you are the way you are, and you can make little adjustments to become the person you want to be. Now, outward journey work, this is probably the one most people really want to know about, because this is where you start talking about your shamanic journeys, astral travel, out-of-body experiences. And in this category, you'll find a lot of techniques and a lot of different terminologies. The out-of-body experience, astral travel, and even soul travel are the ones that you tend to come across the most. Now, all these are where you exit your body in some way to journey elsewhere, whether it be the astral plane, the elemental planes, a plane with angels. Wherever you want to go, you can travel the planes this way. Now, there is some debate on exactly what's the difference. And I can't really speak for everyone specifically, but for me, I have noticed a slight difference between astral travel and what most people would call soul travel. And the main difference is that I have found is in astral travel, you are still very much, it's almost as if the things are being brought to you. And as you travel through the astral plane, you can still see things, you can still experience the planes, but it's very distorted. For example, if you was to look at the material plane from the astral plane, time, space, shape, it's all distorted in a way, almost foggy, and when something's happening, you don't experience, it seems surreal. So there's that, but astral travel seems to be the easier one to do. Now, soul travel, the difference I find in it, it's you to soul travel, you first actually have to get your spiritual essence out of your body. You can't just mentally project there. So you actually have to get your essence out of your body fully. And because of this, when you do travel to these places, you can experience them fully as if you were there. In my experiences doing soul travel as opposed to astral travel, I find that there's really no difference in how I experience the real world with my mundane senses as opposed to how I do in soul travel. With the exception of, I will say, many things actually I experience on a higher level in soul travel than I do with my mundane senses. That would be the one critique to that I would make. So, with those aside, now, how would you do this? As we covered in our previous video on meditation for beginners, you want to get into a deep meditative state. And you need a target. Once you're into that deep state, you need a target. And we're going to go into this from just a basic journey work perspective. We're not going to try and define astral travel or soul travel. We're just going to try and get you to start using journey work. So, once you get into that deep meditative state, I don't want you to worry about, am I in a trance state? Am I not in a trance state? The trance state will come naturally. Set aside the worry about that. Instead, once you get into that, start, with your deep breathing meditation. Relax yourself. Get all the need to wiggle and move and scratch your nose. Get all that out. Remove all distractions. And once you get into that deep state, you want to switch over to the focused meditation techniques. And what you want to focus on is your destination, your goal. Where is it you're wanting to travel? Now, I generally say start with a place you know. So for me, I live near a beach. I might actually try to lock that beach into my mind and picture myself on that beach. And when I see it, I start to interact with the environment around me. I try to feel the water, the sand, the sun, or the moon, depending on what time of day it is. You can also maneuver around your house in the same method. Now, once you have some experience and that you start getting some clarity in destinations you know, now you can start working to destinations you don't know. I generally recommend the elemental planes because the primary elements play such a large role in everyone's practice that interacting with them and learning about them in such a way can be very beneficial. You will notice as you project to these places, they have a very elemental theme to them, which is to be expected. And some magicians all seem to describe them the same, and then I've seen some magicians describe them very uniquely. One example is the airplane. A lot of people really have trouble picturing this one because they don't know what it'll be. In some cases, I've seen people who see it as cities built in the sky that are floating, and with almost Arabian-like feel and architecture to them. That being said, though, coincidentally, a lot of people who don't see the floating cities, they still see that Arabian theme, only it's in a desert where there's nothing to really obstruct the wind as it moves across. So that's interesting, but that is a very drastic difference in how it will manifest to the person. Beyond that, my personal take on why that is I think these planes are somewhat malleable, and since they're not necessarily the material plane as we know it, they tend to shape around the expectations of the person visiting them or viewing them, but this is merely a theory. What is important is the information that the magicians are getting seems to link up very well. Alright, so we've discussed, moving around your house, moving around the material world. We talked about the elemental planes. Now, some people still have trouble with this because of that transition. They start to feel that falling feeling. Some people even say they get sick when they start to do these exercises. Well, one way that I like to help my students with this is At the end of the day, anytime you're doing journey work, you need a target location. One technique I like to teach my students is the use of an arcane sanctum or a private sanctum. And this comes in very handy for developing trance work and journey work. Because in trance and journey work, you need a target location. And what this is you actually build your own private sanctum in the astral plane. And how you would go about this in the simplest forms is you would actually project yourself. Your target is the astral plane. Now, from there, you can build it up around you, or, and this oftentimes is easier, ask yourself what kind of terrain you want your astral sanctum to be in. For example, mine actually exists on an island in the astral plane surrounded by ocean. So that would be your target image, whatever that terrain is. It can be a field, a mountain. I know people who use volcanoes. And you'd project to that area in the astral plane. And when you get there, there's nothing there. And you start construction. You visualize it, you will it into existence, and you build it. Whatever you want, however you want it, you build it. And the more time you spend with it, the more tangible it gets, the more real it gets, to the point where, honestly, if you spend enough time there, you won't be able to tell the difference between the physical realm and it. It will become that real. And this is your target location for journey work, starting out. Because this will allow you to drop into trance, and it'll allow you to begin that journey work because you got that target location and you're shooting to something familiar. So it gives you kind of a safety net type feeling while you begin adjusting to the transition of journey work and trance work. And this sanctum becomes really handy because you can actually build it up however you want. You can put different things there, and you can actually begin to do ritual work in this sanctum if you so choose. And it's also a great way just to escape and relax. I know a lot of people who the entire point of their sanctum is for ritual work. Sometimes they just visit it as a little, kind of like a summer home getaway for a meditation time. No matter how you use it, though, it's still handy to have it. It also can work as a meeting place if you're working with entities and beings. So you can actually project to this area and they can meet you there. It's kind of creating your own crossroads to meet if you've ever done evocation or any type of work with entities. So you can see the benefits of how this sanctum would work. But the big benefit starting out now is it will help you with that transition in trance and journey work. Now, another benefit to the sanctum is the visualization. You're constantly building this thing and working on it, and you can move things around, and that is it helps with your arcane senses. The more you interact with something, the more your senses have to translate that information to you. So that's why it becomes more real. Your arcane senses are actually picking it up. So you're getting the benefit there of helping with your trance and your journey work, as well as helping you develop your arcane senses even further. One thing I like to do is I actually like to get into a trance, project to my sanctum, and that's where I'll do my daily rituals and whatnot, and dedications, prayer work, anything like that that you may want to do, you can do in that sanctum really easily. And I also use it as a jumping off point for any other journey work that I do when I journey through the planes. And it also gives me a location to come back to real easily. Now, you do hear horror stories about people getting stuck in the planes, or you have to take the correct path back and all that. Me and about 20 other people, we've done a lot of experimenting with this, and we've never found any ill effects. We really have not. Any real dangers either. As far as the silver cord being cut and you dying, that, as far as I can tell, that is a complete myth. And the getting stuck. I've never had any issues getting stuck ever, nor have any of the other people who've done this that I've talked to. The worst case I've ever experienced was in a really, really deep soul travel style working, where I couldn't necessarily return as quickly as I wanted. I had to kind of figure out the little puzzle and lesson that was being taught to me. But it was also made clear that if I didn't figure it out within a certain amount of time, I'd be sent back anyway. So I wasn't stuck. It was just a matter of temporary inconvenience. Now, Astral Whiplash. This is when you get snapped back to your body real suddenly. People talk about it. That can be I have noticed that is a thing, but I don't see it as a danger or a major issue because honestly, it's kind of an energetic imbalance. You snap back with such force, your energetic body just kind of gets scrambled a little bit. And there's a few things you can do. Your basic grounding techniques that we talked about in the grounding and shielding techniques can help ground the energy and rebalance it. Easy. Now, if you ain't got time to walk through that, grab a cup of coffee, grab some water, eat some food. Basic mundane activities like this will ground your energy out, refocus you, and you're good to go. It really is that simple. So I've never seen this as a major dangerous practice or anything, and I do continue to research a lot of the claims and whatnot, and if I ever find any reason for me to believe there is an actual danger attached to this, I will update my opinion. As of now, I see no danger, just mild inconvenience at best. Now, it can take time to develop these skills. If you've been meditating a while and you can get into deep meditation, it really is as easy as starting to visualize yourself elsewhere. And these are great skills to develop because if you ever hear people talking about path working, like path working the tree of life, for example, that is a form of journey work in which you enter into a trance and you visit the spheres of the Sephiroth. And I'm probably not saying that right, so if I mess up the pronunciation, all you ceremonial magicians, I apologize. Pronunciation of some of these words is hard for me with my twang, but I do the best I can. The same thing if you were to journey into the Nordic realms or in some of the Egyptian realms. All these cultures that have these different realms and planes, you can actually use journey work to visit and to explore and to learn from them and even interact with the beings that live there and learn from them. As you do these, you will notice it gets easier and easier. You may struggle at first. You may not see anything the first time you try. Honestly, if you're having issues, the easiest way is to start with building that Astral Sanctum. That is hands down the easiest. And it does take practice. Some people, they sit down, they get into trance, they picture themselves, and whoom, they're there. Others, it takes time to develop. Don't get discouraged, please. Continue to try. You will succeed. And remember, imagination is the key here. You need to use your imagination to visualize what's around you and let that information just flood in. You will be seeing this in your mind's eye at first as you begin the journey work. A lot of your astral travel and stuff like that does feel like it's in your mind's eye at first. It does take time before you feel the very external effects of it. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Just take what you're feeling, take what you're seeing, and go with it. Run with it. And it will get easier and it will get more tangible with time and practice. And enjoy these experiences. Keep a journal of everything that you see, what you hear. Write it down. Journaling is key to this practice. The more you can write down your experiences and go back to them, the better. I wish I could actually do a lot more with this video. I do teach an entire class on trance work and journey work, but for a short YouTube video, it's really difficult. So I'm trying to give you some quick and easy tips to jump in and start practicing with. Again, your Astral Sanctum, the 4 elemental planes, earth, air, fire, water, great places to start. But also, don't forget the material plane. Just because you can jump to other planes, the material plane is a great medium to work with and get some results. You can actually use astral travel to travel around the material plane and compare what you see. One great thing that you can do is travel your neighborhood and make notes about what you see. Then you can walk your neighborhood and see what matches up with your notes. Maybe there's a license plate you haven't seen, a vehicle you haven't seen, cars parked in specific areas. These kinds of things that you can use journey work to do, and then compare the notes to the real world to confirm your experiences. That is powerful, very powerful. In fact, when I started working with soul travel, I was trying to figure out, is this just journey work? Or am I actually getting out? And that's exactly what I did. Every time I would get out of my body, I'd go further and further and further. And in one such jump, I was in a location where I lived, and it was further out than I would normally go, and there was a vehicle. I've never seen this vehicle before. And it seemed like it didn't belong in the neighborhood for sure. But I locked onto it. I paid attention to it. I looked at the details on it. I checked the license plate. And then once I returned to my body, I got up, put my shoes on, and I went outside for a walk. And I went to right where that vehicle was. And sure enough, that vehicle that I had never seen was there, along with the same license plates, the same rust markings, the same paint job. That is powerful confirmation. And when you're beginning your journey with trance work and journey work, don't forget the material world. It can be one of your best tools for building your confidence that you are getting these techniques down. So honestly, if I was going back to redo my training all over again, my starting point would be the Astral Sanctum and the material world. Those two are really the big keys that I would go back to if I had it to do over again, and I wish I'd known earlier, because I did. I just started going to other planes where it's much harder to confirm and get any form of confirmation that's usable. And I'm all about confirmation and results. So that made it a little harder, even though honestly a bulk of my practice starting out was through trance work. I'd done a lot of trance work when I first started out. And when you are working in trance, you do need to also focus on results. So if you're journeying inward into yourself, for example, for healing, are you getting healthy? You need to keep your notes. Do you get healthy quicker? You need to evaluate these kinds of things, and you need to adjust where necessary. Perhaps you're going to talk with entities. Perhaps it's your deity if you have one. Perhaps it's an ancestor. So you can talk to them in these journeys and ask them questions that you can then try to confirm in the everyday life as well. I know this has been kind of a quick, massive download for how to get started. That said, it really is kind of that simple. One of the more complicated things about it is it's that simple. So to review, trance work is a deep meditative state where you experience a conscious shift, and that's when whether you feel that falling sensation or not, this is when it's hard to come out of the meditation, because your conscious has shifted from normal waking consciousness to that trance-like consciousness. Journey work is when you travel anywhere, inwardly or outwardly. Now, the key to journey work is visualization and picturing yourself where it is you want to go, or traveling to where you want to go. A lot of people do walk down a path, and sometimes it's the same path, and it ends wherever their goal location is. Using an astral sanctum, as we talked about, or a private sanctum, to have a target goal for where you journey to is a great way to do this. And it's a fun exercise because you can build whatever you want there. You can have a castle, a tower, a beach hut. It doesn't matter. Whatever you want. You can have your own private anything. Is a great way to start these practices. Also, remember, the material world is a great way to test your journey work, because you can journey out into the material world and move amongst them as a ghost, or however you want to view it. And you can view the world, you can take notes on what you see, what you find, and then you can come back, write all those notes down in your journal, and you can actually go out and you can confirm what you found. I do recommend you try to use things that can't change too quickly, because in the example of the truck, I was able to get up, get out of the house really quickly and see that truck. But if it's a long hike to whatever you're riding and it's a vehicle, that person can get up and go to lunch or go to the store, and that truck won't be there when you get back. So do try to pick scenery and stuff that is pretty solid and that isn't likely to change too quickly. And that's really the best place to get started and start practicing. And with all magical techniques, practice makes perfect. And it does rely on your arcane senses. So, pop back and check out our video on the arcane senses so that you can also work on developing those. But journey work is a great technique for helping to develop those to start with also. We are still working on getting the Magic School up and running. We are filming the first class, as we said, hoping to get it launched very soon, within the next couple of months at the most. If you like the video, please like, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you can get any notifications of new videos that we have. And do share it with all your friends on Facebook, whatnot. We do have a Facebook group. There should be a link for it on the channel's page here, and I'll try and make sure it's in the video description. Please leave any comments or questions that you may have. I do check those. You can do that here or at the Facebook group if you join us there. Anyways, I know this has been a quick kind of cram session on this topic, and I wish I could do more, but if you do have any questions, let me know. I'll try to do the best I can to answer them, and if need be, I'll even try to do a second video to expand on this topic if y'all want. In the meantime, thank you very much. I'm Drake. This has been Working Dragon Mystic, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.